Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that this event is for men only. If you're a woman, please feel free to return in about an hour when your session will begin. Also, please allow yourself a full hour for this dedicated event. To make things more convenient, we'll have a 7-minute intermission during which you can grab a coffee, have a snack, visit the restroom, or receive your home delivery meal. Hopefully, the person delivering it hasn't been waiting too long at your door while you've been tuning in. And if they have, well, thank goodness for microwave ovens and modern technology. Now, welcome, gentlemen, to the first of 6 lessons in the transformative program Awaken Her Passion by Ernie Sulovic of Everlast Therapies. Ernie is a relationship trainer and therapist who truly practices what he teaches. Today, he has generously granted us exclusive free access to Lesson 1 of his program. This collaboration was created to offer you the opportunity to embark on an enlightening journey that will help reignite the love, excitement, and connection in your relationship. As we delve into the essence of romance, how to bring love, fun, communication, intimacy, and unwavering passion to the woman you cherish, you'll discover the ultimate goal, not only to find love, yet to keep it alive, preventing divorce and nurturing a harmonious family unit. It's no secret that many couples struggle with challenges that can turn love into routine and passion into indifference. Arguments about money, differing family values, raising children, and communication breakdowns can leave relationships feeling stagnant and strained. However, as we'll explore together today, it isn't merely the circumstances of your relationship that dictate its quality. It's how you perceive and respond to those circumstances that truly matters. Our insights in this program are not just theoretical. They are the result of extensive research involving thousands of happily married couples who have successfully navigated the trials of love. Their stories are not only inspiring but grounded in reality. They may strike a chord within you, invoking memories and emotions that you once thought were buried. Allow yourself to feel, for passion thrives in vulnerability and honesty. Some may find themselves resistant to the information presented in this program, perhaps due to past experiences or preconceived notions about relationships. But here's the truth. This is not just theory. It's a blueprint for success. You have the opportunity to learn from those who have thrived in love, to emulate their patterns of behavior and choices. After all, if you aim to create a successful relationship, why not model it after those who have achieved it? Let's take a moment to reflect on a common mistake many people make: seeking relationship advice from friends or family who may not have the best track record in love and commitment. If you turn to a friend who is bitter after a painful divorce, you might find yourself receiving a skewed perspective, one that breeds distrust and negativity rather than understanding and fulfillment. Instead, let's focus on building a network of positivity, love, and mutual respect. Throughout this session, I encourage you to remain open and engaged, for what lies ahead is not just advice. It's a path illuminated by the voices of those who have walked it before you. And if you stay with us until the end, prepare to be rewarded with some special bonuses that will further enhance your journey towards rekindling passion and understanding in your relationship. Let's begin this exciting adventure together, and remember, transforming your relationship starts with you. It's time to awaken her passion, and in doing so, awaken your own.
Welcome to Session 1 of Awaken Her Passion, Unconditional Love. You deserve to have a woman who loves you with all her heart and soul. You're about to find out that that's not going to happen by chance or luck or by being in the right place at the right time. It's going to happen because you are about to learn what it is she wants from you, how different her needs are from yours, and how you can live a life that's more meaningful and fulfilling than you ever dreamed possible. Living with and loving a woman can be the most challenging and rewarding experience you'll ever have. When you give her the kind of strength, understanding, tenderness, and sensitivity that she needs, you're going to get back her respect, admiration, support, and passion. There is nothing that equals the deep sense of satisfaction when a woman is at your side, giving you a sense of worth, sharing in your successes, helping you through your failures, and confirming your manhood. I want you to have the ultimate payoff, a woman who worships the ground you walk on and who would do anything to make you happy. Now let's get started on this journey together and learn how you can become everything a woman ever dreamed of having. You can be her Prince Charming, her knight in shining armor, her hero, and in return, you'll have a caring, exciting, sensual woman for the rest of your life. I know that men are more guarded than women. It takes more time for us to feel comfortable with strangers. We're more cautious. And we're not nearly as trusting, especially when it comes to discussing our private lives with a stranger. Whether you have a woman in your life or not, when you learn how to have the best relationship possible, you'll give your children now or someday the greatest gift of all, the opportunity to grow up in a home that is filled with love and security. Only by having a loving, romantic, fun-filled partnership can you pass the legacy on to your children. What greater a gift can a parent provide? If that wasn't given to you, now's your chance to change history. You don't have to do to your kids what your parents did to you, especially now that you have this program. Let me read you something called A Tunnel Without Cheese. It says, if you put a rat in front of a bunch of tunnels and you put cheese in one of them, the rat will go up and down the tunnels looking for the cheese. If every time you do the experiment, you put the cheese down the fourth tunnel, eventually you're going to get a successful rat. The rat will know the right tunnel and go directly to it every time. Now, if you move the cheese out of the fourth tunnel, of course, it gets no cheese. It then comes out of the tunnel, looks the tunnel over again, goes right back down the cheeseless fourth tunnel. Unrewarded, he comes out of the tunnel, looks the tunnels over, and again goes back down the fourth tunnel again and finds no cheese. Now, do you know the difference between a rat and a human being? Eventually, the rat will stop going down the fourth tunnel and will look down the other tunnels, and a human being will go down the tunnel with no cheese forever. Rats, you see, are only interested in cheese. Yet human beings care more about going down the right tunnel. It is belief which allows human beings to go down the fourth tunnel ad nauseum. They go on doing what they do without any real satisfaction, without any nurturing, because they come to believe what they're doing is right. And they're going to do this forever, even if there's no cheese in the tunnel, as long as they believe in it and can prove that they're in the right tunnel. Now, the reason that I start out our program, as well as the women's program, with this story is because so many people are in that fourth cheeseless tunnel. And you're in that cheeseless tunnel if you're not getting all you would hope for out of life. If you're not getting all of the rewards, maybe you're in the wrong tunnel. If you were a young child, it would be the easiest thing in the world to yank you out of that fourth tunnel and make you explore other tunnels, because kids have something called blind faith and trust. They do whatever you ask them to do. Yet adults, they cling to old habits. We hate change. In this program, I'm going to ask you to do things or say things that might make you uncomfortable. I want you to do them anyway. So many people never try to do anything new or say anything that feels uncomfortable because they evaluate an outcome or reaction in their head without ever experiencing it in reality. For instance, those of you who are in a relationship, I'm going to ask you to say something to your partner. When you hear what it is, you might say, if I said that, she'd die laughing. If I said that, she'd think I've lost my mind. Neither of those will be her reaction, yet you'll never get to experience how she reacts if you don't do what I'm asking you to do. Those of you who are not in a relationship, I'm going to ask you to do something that you probably have never done before at the end of this session. When you hear what it is, just do it and then evaluate it. Don't make a value judgment before you try it. I'd like all of you to say to yourself, since I'm listening to this program, I might as well give it my best shot and do what he asked me to do. Once I get you out of that cheeseless fourth tunnel and get you to try a new behavior, I know that you'll get rewarded by having a more loving and passionate woman. When that happens, you'll never go back to that tunnel with no cheese again. Most of you are on autopilot. You don't realize that you react to your partner the way your father reacted to your mother, the way your grandfather reacted to your grandmother. We wind up copying the prior generation. I've never heard it said more clearly than in the song by Harry Chapin called Cats in the Cradle. If you can, buy a copy and listen to it over and over again. It delivers a powerful message. It's a father's tale about his relationship with a son. It says, "A child arrived just the other day. He came to the world in the usual way. Yet there were planes to catch and bills to pay, and he learned to walk while I was away. And he was talking before I knew it, and as he grew he said, 'I'm going to be like you, Dad.'" And of course, the chorus is, "The cat's in the cradle and the silver spoon, little boy blue and the man in the moon. When you coming home, Dad, I don't know when, yet we'll get together then, son. You know we'll have a good time then." The father is postponing being with the son because he's too busy. Well, the song continues and says, "My son turned 10 just the other day. He said, 'Thanks for the ball, Dad. Come on, let's play. Can you teach me to throw?' I said, 'Not today. I got a lot to do.' He said, 'That's okay.' And he walked away and his smile never dimmed. He said, 'I'm going to be like him. Yeah, I know, I'm going to be just like him.'" Then you have a chorus again. Then later in the song, the son comes home from university, so much like a man that the father had to say, "I'm proud of you. Can you sit for a while?" He shook his head and he said with a smile, "What I'd really like, Dad, is to borrow the car keys. See you later. Can I have them, please?" Now the son is turning out to be just like his father, isn't he? And later the father retires and says, "I long since retired. My son's moved away. I called him up just the other day. I'd like to see you, if you don't mind. He said, 'I'd love to, Dad, if I could find the time.' You see, my new job's a hassle and the kids have the flu, and it's sure nice talking to you, Dad. It's been sure nice talking to you." And as I hung up the phone, it occurred to me, he'd grown up just like me. My boy was just like me. Children learn by example. Don't wait until it's too late to establish a relationship with your kids. You may not have one with your dad, yet this is your chance to have one with your son or daughter. Not someday, today. I want you to stop relating to your kids and to your partner the way your dad did, unless, of course, he was a wonderful father and a terrific husband. I want you to know that nobody on their deathbed has ever said, "I was supposed to have worked harder. I was supposed to have stayed at work till later." What you will say is, "The end is near, and I should have spent more time with the people I love. I should have had a closer relationship with my kids, and I was supposed to have been a better husband. And I don't want you to have a life full of regrets, and you won't have to because you have this program. You're going to see some wonderful changes in the woman you love because she's going to respond to the changes in you." For example, a man who took my class was really upset because his wife was a very messy housekeeper. He felt that he worked hard all day long and he provided a good income. When he came home, the house was an absolute pigsty, and he always told her. Well, after taking this class one particular evening, he came home and he said, "I've really been selfish. You work hard all day long, taking care of our kids, and I haven't pitched in and helped as much as I'm supposed to. This weekend, I'm going to devote 2 days to really helping you around the house." He said that on a Thursday night, and Friday night he came home to music, flowers on the table, and a beautiful dinner. All he needed to do was to show her that he cared and he understood what she was going through. He didn't demand anything. He changed, and she reacted to the change in him. I know we always feel that there's nothing wrong with us. It's the other person that needs to change. Well, in this course, we're going to focus on you. It's not your responsibility to improve somebody else's behavior. It's your responsibility to improve your own. By the time you finish this course, you will see your point of view and a female's point of view and be able to look at things in a much more objective way. There are always two ways of looking at everything, and there's always a good and a bad side to everyone and everything. There is the plus and the minus. I remember having a pet collie, and he was the most lovable animal in the whole world. He could do all sorts of tricks, and he protected the house, yet he had to be fed, let out a few times a day, and on vacations, he had to be looked after. Whatever you have a relationship with has a good and a bad side. Maybe you have a fast car, yet it gets terrible mileage, and the maintenance is very expensive. You're very proud of your beautiful yard and landscaping, yet it takes a lot of hard work to keep it looking nice. You really enjoy playing golf, yet you have to get up at a very early time in order to beat the crowds. If you take the time to think about every relationship you have, you will find that there is a good and a bad side to it. There isn't anything in your life that you are related to that is all good or all bad. Now, we accept what's outside of our relationship. For example, you just got a large raise and a promotion, yet you have to work longer hours. Would you go to your boss and complain, or would you accept that trade-off? Here's a statement made by somebody who works with horses. This is what he wrote. On weekends and last summer, I worked with some magnificent thoroughbreds at a racetrack. Even these great beauties muck up their stalls. My admiration and love for these horses were totally separate from their sweat and muck. I've been bitten and kicked by them. All of these unpleasant things were in addition to my love for these horses. Being bitten by a horse is a nuisance, yet has nothing to do with the magnificence of the animal. Now, can you imagine how ridiculous the owner would be to say, "Horse, I'm going to give you 3 chances not to muck up your stall, and on the 3rd time, I'm going to sell you and get another horse, a better one that's housebroken." A housebroken horse doesn't exist, and neither does a perfectly trouble-free relationship. As a person would have to be insane to keep changing pets, complaining and withdrawing love from them because of the mess they make. So too is it insane not to expect upsets and messes in relationships. It's supposed to have nothing to do with your love for the person. This is a very fast-paced, disposable society. We dine out in fast food restaurants, eat on paper plates, use paper cups, plastic forks and knives, and we throw them all away. I truly believe that a lot of people treat their relationships in the same way. Now, that's not to say that there are some relationships that need to be discarded, yet it is my belief that most people throw away a relationship far too early. And I have the proof of the pudding, usually in the messages I receive, saying, "Ernie, if I had gotten this program earlier, I never would have gotten divorced." And I want you to think about the fact that most people feel that there shouldn't be any conflict. And once there is a lot of conflict in the relationship, they think they need to split up or it's not going to work anymore. Many years ago, I watched a lecture on Western families given by a brilliant and famous psychiatrist, Dr. Bruno Bettelheim. At the time, he was in his 90s and a member of Who's Who in America. Somebody in the audience asked, "What do you think the biggest problem with Western families today is?" You know what his answer was? "The biggest problem with Western families today is we really think that there are supposed to be no problems." He's right. We really believe that there is supposed to be no conflict. You show me a relationship where there's no conflict and there's no arguing, and I'll show you a couple that hasn't got a chance of making it. I've always said, if 2 people agree on everything, then what isn't necessary in the relationship? You must have conflict, yet it's how you view conflict that is the important thing. If you understand that conflict leads to growth, then you won't be so frightened by it. Whenever there's a conflict, you can be sure that there's a tremendous amount of growth that is about to occur. I want you to understand that relationships must have conflict. How many times do you wake up and you hate yourself? Forget about somebody else. If you could choose not to be with yourself, you would do that. So how could you not have conflict with another person when there are so many times you have conflicts within yourself? One of my sister's biggest conflicts she experienced was with her daughter 1 year prior to her going to university. She had chosen Charles Sturt University, some few hundred kilometers away from home. My sister had always gotten along with my niece, and she was such an easy child to raise. Well, all of a sudden, a year prior to her going away to university, if my sister said black, she said white. No matter what she said, there was an argument, and it got to the point where my niece was getting ready to leave. A few hundred kilometers seemed too close. Maybe Europe would be a better choice. Yet my sister understands now that her daughter needed to distance herself from her in order to have the courage to leave. It is also true of couples. When they're going through a tremendous amount of conflict, they're usually going through a growth period. One of the things that I think is so important is the belief system that you have when you enter a relationship. If you believe that there is supposed to be no conflict, no arguments, no fights, well then once it happens, you think we're falling apart. We're not going to make it. I think people need to start out with the knowledge that life is not fair. You see, if everybody started out with that premise, that life was not fair, if that's what you were taught, wouldn't everything else make sense? Then every time something bad happened, you'd say, geez, that makes sense because life's not fair. Yet the problem is we start out thinking that life is fair, and so for the rest of our lives, nothing makes sense. It's the same with the relationship. We really believe that when we are madly in love, there needs to be no conflicts, and if there is conflict, it's time to break up. And what I'm saying is that there has to be conflicts, so it's how you view your relationship that matters, not what's going on in the relationship. A little while ago, I said that there are always 2 ways of looking at everything. Maybe up to now, you've been concentrating on your partner's negative qualities. You've been seeing her personality traits as bad, negative, or wrong. Let's see if you can concentrate on the positive aspects of her personality instead. One way of doing that is to ask, how would another man who really loved this woman look at the same traits that seem to annoy me? I'll help you with some suggestions, and then you're on your own to add to the list. The negative way of looking at her is she talks too much. The positive way of looking at that same trait, she's so friendly and puts everyone at ease. Here's the negative. She argues so much. Positive, she has such strong convictions. Negative, she thinks she knows it all. Positive, she's quite intelligent. Negative, she's so conceited. Positive, she has so much confidence in herself. Negative, she's too easygoing. Positive, she really has a calming effect on everyone. Negative, she's so stingy. Positive, she's trying to save money for our future. Negative, she spends too much money. Positive, she's always trying to improve our lifestyle. Negative, she's too rigid. Positive, she's really well organized. Negative, she can never sit still. Positive, she has so much energy. Negative, she's too emotional. Positive, she is so sensitive. So it's not a woman's traits, rather how you view those traits that will determine how you react to her. Let's take a look at love now. Love needs to always be unconditional. At first, this is so natural. When a young man first falls in love and friends and family try to point out the young woman's faults, he only sees the good in her. And if he does know her faults, he overlooks them. We've all heard the phrase, love is blind. Later, as the years pass, you start to look at her faults. We start using that word, if. And let me tell you that the word if will do more to destroy your love than any other word I know. I love you becomes, I love you if you lose a few kilograms. I love you if you get a good paying job and help out with the finances. And love you if you keep the house clean. You do this with your children too. There isn't a father alive that doesn't give unqualified, unconditional love to his baby and ask for nothing in return. As the child gets older, it's, I'll love you if you get good grades. I'll love you if you make me proud. I'll love you if you obey the rules. Our love starts having conditions attached to it. Now, as a society, we truly believe that if I punish a person long enough, if I correct them long enough, if I criticize them long enough, I'm going to stimulate them to grow. I'm here to tell you the only thing that is ever going to make a person grow or become a better person is if they know that they are loved for who they are, not what you want them to be. I remember a woman in one of my classes raised her hand and told us that she had gone to counseling to verbalize her feelings. She felt her husband loved her only when the house was spotless. Yet what she really needed was to know he loved her in order for her to keep the house clean. I know most of us don't want to be taken for granted, yet when it comes to real love, you need to be saying, I want you to take me and my love for granted. I love you no matter what. I love you because you're part of my life. I love you because you're mine. Anyone who feels that he's loved for what he does or what he has feels used, not loved. And love needs to be given as a gift with nothing asked in return. This message is so important, and a lot of you don't even know how many times in your life that you're tested.
Hey there, everyone. We're halfway through our training module, and it's time for a quick intermission. This is a great opportunity to stretch your legs, grab a snack, or take a deep breath and let everything we've covered so far sink in. Remember, staying refreshed is key to retaining what you've learned. In just a few minutes, we'll dive back in and explore more exciting content that will enhance your skills and knowledge. So take a moment for yourself. We'll be back in 7 minutes, right here. Enjoy this break, and we'll see you soon.
You probably don't know as a father how many times you've been asked to confirm your love. A child will come to you and say, "Daddy, what happens if I fail this test?" Do you know what most fathers say? "What are you talking about if you fail this test? If you study, you're going to pass. You put in the time, you put in the hours, and you're going to get the results." That's how that works. Cause and effect. What that child really wants to know is, if I fail that test, "Daddy, will you still love me?" Your answer to the question must be, "Nothing's going to happen. I'm going to love you no matter what. I want you to do well. I want you to study, yet nothing is going to happen if you fail that test. I'm always going to be here for you. I love you because you're my son, or I love you because you're my daughter." The year prior to my sister's daughter leaving for Wagga Wagga to go to university, she asked her mum, "Mum, what happens if I made the wrong decision?" She was great in answering, "Nothing. Nothing will happen. If you made the wrong decision, you'll come back, you'll turn around, and you'll make another decision. We'll turn around and, oops, never mind, we made the wrong decision. We'll change decisions." Now I want to give you another example. We have a good friend whose son asked the same question. Do you know what the parents' reaction was? "What are you talking about if you've made the wrong decision? We just sent in your HEX fees, and we have taken 6 months to make this decision. What do you mean if it's the wrong decision? You made your bed and you're going to lie in it. You're going to go to university for 3 years." Do you understand now that my niece has a return ticket and that other boy has a one-way ticket? The teenage suicide rate is at an all-time high, and I want you to know who's committing suicide. It is not your high school dropouts. It's not the kids on drugs. Do you know who's killing themselves? It's the straight-A student. He was the captain of the football team. She was head of the Girl Guides. When these kids end their lives, everybody is in shock. It is so hard to believe because everyone thinks that these kids had everything going for them. Well, the fact is that kids that finally end their lives literally are producers. They are compulsive pleasers, and they really believe that if I stopped producing, if I stopped giving, if I stopped making everybody so proud of me, their love is going to go away. And if you really believe that somebody doesn't love you for who you are, yet they always love you for what they imagine you to be, or only if you achieve, or only if you please, eventually life becomes too tough and it's not worth living. You have to be really sure that the people that you love know that there are no strings attached to your love. There's no conditions. There's no price tag. It's a gift that I'm giving you freely. I love you because you are you, and because you've come into my life, and because you are mine. That means that if your child asks, "Dad, what if I don't make the soccer team? What if I don't make the football team? What if I don't make the basketball team? What if I can't cut it? What if I can't make the grade?" Then your response must be, "I'm going to love you no matter what happens." Isn't that what you want to hear from your partner? If you thought you were getting a promotion and there was a good chance that you'd have to relocate, and you said, "What would happen if we had to move?" How would you feel if she told you, "Move? I'm not going anywhere. I've lived next to Bonnie for 20 years. I'm not about to leave." Wouldn't you want to hear nothing would happen? I don't care if we live in a tent on a desert island, as long as we're together. It's so hard for most people to understand why an actor who was loved by millions would take his or her own life. The fact is that a lot of performers feel that they're loved only because they're funny, exciting, romantic, beautiful, or handsome. And if people knew the real truth or saw them without their makeup, they wouldn't be loved at all. So they give the public what they want, an image of perfection, rather than themselves. When it finally becomes too much, they end their lives. There's a book that I'd like you to read to your children, no matter how old they are. It's called Love You Forever by Robert Munch. It's about a mother who holds her baby son and says, "I love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." Then it talks about all the naughty things a little boy does as a toddler, a 9-year-old, and a teenager. Yet, no matter what he did, at night, when it was quiet, his mother would always say, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." Finally, when his mother was old and sick, the son holds her and rocks her, saying, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my mummy you'll be." Then, when he went home, he stood for a long time at the top of the stairs, and then went into his new baby daughter's room, picked her up and said, "I'll love you forever. I'll like you for always. As long as I'm living, my baby you'll be." It's hard to give unconditional love if you didn't get it as a child. Please try. Whether you have kids now or will someday, it's such an important message to give them. No child need ever wonder whether they are worthy or deserving of your love. We have to qualify for a job, not a relationship. Unconditional love says there are no prerequisites, no contingencies, no requirements for my love. It's a gift that I'm giving you with no strings attached. This is not the case in our professional life. There, we'll have to meet requirements, pass inspection, and make the grade. Your boss, co-workers, clients, and patients are not going to give you unconditional love. You don't need 10 people who love you like this, yet every one of you has to have one person that you could call right now, and they would love you whether you have a job or not, whether you made $1 million or declared bankruptcy, whether you're a prince or a pauper. If you don't, and you only have people who love you because of what you've acquired or what you've accomplished, then you too would be a good candidate for suicide. So I really want you to think about the kind of love that you're giving to the people in your life. I know some of you are thinking, how can I give this kind of love when I'm having trouble liking this person right now? How can I accept a person for who they are when there's so many things that I want to change about them? At this point, if you're not in a relationship, I want you to think about a past relationship so that you can learn from past mistakes. Socrates said, a life that's not examined is not worth living. If you're not willing to learn from the past, then history will keep repeating itself over and over. Once you learn from your mistakes, then there'll be room for somebody new and wonderful to come into your life. First, we have to begin to realize that every human being alive has 10 faults and 10 virtues. I'm picking the number 10. We could pick 20, 30, 40, or whatever. There is nobody alive walking around with only virtues. Every one of us has 10 wonderful things about us, strengths that we possess. And then we have 10 faults of things that we could use a lot of improvement on. And so what I want you to also understand is the faults that you assign to the woman in your life are very subjective. Because if I had a list going around and every one of you wrote down what upsets you about the woman in your life, it would be from your point of view. In other words, one of you might put down, well, the woman in my life has too much ambition. Another one of you would say, well, the woman in my life doesn't have enough ambition. Somebody else would say, she's too talkative. She's always monopolizing the conversation. Somebody else would say, well, the thing I can't stand about my partner is she never opens her mouth and she never joins in on the conversation. One of you might say, my partner spends too much time with the children. Another person might say, she never spends any time with the children. I remember one man raising his hand and saying, my wife is a sex maniac. I can't even get in the front door and she wants to make love straight away. I don't have the sex drive that she does. Another man raised his hand and said, can I have her phone number, please? So the fact is that what one person perceives as a fault, the other one looks at as a virtue. And it's very subjective. There's no point in trading her because I want you to know that the worst thing you could ever do in this lifetime is to take the woman that's in your life now and trade her in for a new woman who has a different set of 10 faults and 10 virtues. And there is nobody alive walking around with only virtues. I know the first time you meet somebody and probably the first few months that you're in a relationship, you might say, I've got the woman and she is perfection. I will guarantee you that after being with this woman for 1 year, you will say, oh, that's strange. There's a fault that I never noticed before. Isn't that annoying? That little habit that she has. Next year, oh my gosh, there's another fault that I never noticed before. And I will guarantee you that after the 5-year mark, there is a human being standing in front of you that will have 10 faults and 10 virtues. Maybe this new woman in your life is the most sensitive, caring, loving woman you have ever met. And the woman in your past relationship had no sensitivity. Because the new woman is so sensitive and caring, she has a million friends that she's always giving advice to, and she never has much time for you. Maybe the new woman is finally as intellectual as you are, yet because she's so smart, she's always doing research of some kind and doesn't pay enough attention to you. I don't know what the new problems are, yet I do know that the worst that you could possibly ever do in this lifetime is to trade the woman in your life now for a new woman with a brand new set of 10 faults and 10 virtues. Because you're not going to find a woman with only virtues. It's hard to accept another person for who they are unless you first accept yourself. I really want you to give yourself the same unconditional love that I'm asking you to give your partner and children. If you're not in a relationship, you will be once you really learn to love yourself, and you can't give to somebody else what you don't possess yourself. When you get a chance, I want you to think about 10 qualities that you have that could stand a little improvement. That's usually the easy part, since most of us tend to be critical of ourselves. Now here's the hard part. Think of 10 wonderful qualities that you have. Try to get a list of 10 faults and then 10 strengths. Then I would like you to begin concentrating on your strengths. I want you to ignore the weaknesses for now. I want you to go deep inside yourself and discover how truly wonderful you are. I want you to say to yourself, sure, I have some faults. Everybody does. Yet, in spite of that, I'm a terrific person. I know that will be hard for some of you to say, let alone believe. If you had critical parents who put lots of conditions on their love, and you had to act a certain way, do things a certain way, and nothing you did was ever good enough, then it's hard to give yourself and your partner this kind of love that I'm talking about. I know one thing for sure. If you can get to the point where you give yourself a break and you're not so harsh and critical on yourself, then you won't be so harsh and critical on everybody else. Now let's look at a very important principle. That's the fact that opposites attract. I know you've heard that before, and a lot of people try to argue that it's not true. Yet, I believe that in 99% of long-term successful relationships, opposites attract. Now, I'm not talking about your religious beliefs or your political beliefs. I'm talking about your basic temperament. I want you to understand that because we are so different, we're going to have a lot of conflicts in relationships. And guess what? We're also going to have irreconcilable differences. I know that's ground for divorce, and there are things my wife and I will never see eye to eye on. We've been together for several years. Irreconcilable differences can lead to change, compromise, and growth. It doesn't have to lead to divorce. Let's see how and why opposites attract. I've found that a spontaneous person, somebody who loves to do things on the spur of the moment, is usually attracted to somebody who is cautious, thorough, and a planner. In other words, if you're attracted to the type of woman who says, let's go to the Gold Coast this weekend, you'd probably say, what, are you crazy? I can't just pick up and go on a whim. It's going to take me weeks to prepare for that. If she loves people, parties, and get-togethers, I know you love quiet evenings alone with her and despise group functions of any kind. If she's a verbal person who loves to talk and can give detailed blow-by-blow accounts of everything that happens, I know that you're probably introverted and shy and can summarize an entire trip in one sentence. I also know that if she is a very relaxed housekeeper and everybody feels comfortable in your home, you're probably a neat freak who likes everything in its place and probably runs your fingers over the picture frame to see if it's dusted or cleans behind the refrigerator. Of course, the opposite is true too. If she is the neat and organized one, then I know you're probably a man who drops his pants wherever and says, relax, it'll be there in the morning. It doesn't need to be picked up now. If she loves to spend money and buy things, you probably want to save as much as possible for a rainy day. A penny pincher is always attracted to a free spender. If you're easygoing and relaxed, she's probably tense and anxious. If you're a clock watcher who's never late, she's a procrastinator who's never on time. If she cares deeply about how other people feel, you probably couldn't care less about what other people think. If she's emotional, you're logical. That certainly was the case for me when I married my wife. Do you know how many times she has said, "Oh no, what am I going to do about this?" Can you imagine what she would do if she was married to a man who said, "I don't know, what are we going to do about this?" She probably would have been dead by now. She's a type A personality who is usually tense and anxious. Thank goodness she has me, a man who is relaxed and easygoing and always says, "Sweetheart, calm down. This is not the end of the world. We'll take one step at a time and solve this problem." Now, at the time, she may want to end my life for being so calm. And let me tell you what's happened as a result of several years of marriage. She has become much more logical, sensible, relaxed, and easygoing because of me. And I've become much more sensitive, caring, and emotional than I could have ever become if I was married to someone like myself. I honestly believe that the reason we meet and fall in love with someone who has our opposite temperament is because her strengths are your weaknesses, and your weaknesses are her strengths. It's like having a puzzle, and that piece finally fits. If I could teach you to accept, appreciate, and love your differences, then you will relate so differently to your partner. If you can learn to love her for who she is, not what you want her to be, or imagine she should be, then love will flourish. As a society, we value an outgoing personality. Most teachers will try to get Johnny and Mary to come out of their shell. They'll actually give a better grade to the child who volunteers to answer questions more than the child who just sits and listens. Can you imagine if schools emphasize that both children have value? Can you imagine if a teacher got up and said, "I'm so glad we have listeners in this room, and I'm so glad we have talkers in this room. I'm so glad that we have children who volunteer answers." And guess what? If we didn't have these wonderful listeners like Johnny and Mary out there, how could we have anybody to talk to? Do you understand that kids wouldn't feel bad about themselves because they were quiet, because they were introverted or shy? There was nothing wrong with having a particular personality. You don't have more value because you open up and talk, and less value because you're quiet. We are all different, and if we could learn to start appreciating our differences and not attack people for who we want them to be, and just recognizing and loving them for who they are, then love will grow. For example, I know that if a woman is a verbal person, she's going to be attracted to a non-verbal man. In case you couldn't guess, I'm the one that's more verbal in my relationship. Let's just say that my wife and I were leaving for a social situation. Before we left, my wife said to me, "Ernie, tonight, I don't want you to open your mouth. I don't want you to say one word. I don't want you to ask anybody how they met, what their life is like, why are they happy, why they're unhappy. I don't want you to say anything. I want you to sit with your mouth shut and sit quietly, just listening." Do you have any idea what an awful time I personally would have? I would probably never in my life go out with her again to a social event. Let's say you're the one that's verbal and you're taking her to a business function of yours. Before leaving the house, you say, "Now look, tonight when we go out, I want you to open your mouth. I want you to talk. I would like you to have an opinion on something. I don't want you to sit there like a bump on a log." Can you imagine the anxiety that that woman has leaving the house trying to be something she's not? Instead, what I would love for you to say is, "Honey, I know how much you despise going to social functions. Yet it's so important to me that you are there. Just being by my side means so much to me." Now, at least she knows why she's going. She's accompanying you rather than having to change her entire personality so that you can feel comfortable when you're out together. I've even found out after teaching for all these years that a morning person is attracted to an evening person. I personally am like Snoopy. I'm allergic to mornings. Every morning when I wake up, it's like I'm coming out of a coma. Everything I've ever written or created has been at midnight, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. I've told my wife that if I ever left her, she'd probably find me in Las Vegas, my kind of town. My wife, on the other hand, gets up at 6 a.m. and hums in the shower. I can't even breathe at that hour, let alone hum. Yet, the truth is, once in a while I have gotten up early, especially when we're on vacation and have gone for a walk with her or have had an early breakfast. I do hear the birds and appreciate the stillness of the morning. She, on the other hand, has taken me to nightclubs and we've danced the night away. Every once in a while, one of us goes out of our way to please the other person so that we can spend time together enjoying each other's pleasure. Yet on a routine basis, I don't ask her to stay up with me at 2 o'clock in the morning, and she doesn't poke me at 6 a.m. So two people with different time clocks can live together. I love to tell the story about Brenda, a woman who was an executive vice president in a Fortune 500 company. She wore navy or black 3-piece suits, had a PhD, and was a brilliant woman. She was 35 years old and had never been married. All of a sudden, Brenda had fallen in love. Every single person in that company on Friday was hanging out the window to get a look at the person that Brenda had fallen in love with. So you can get a picture of him. He looked like he was a Hell's Angel. He would drive up on his Harley Davidson with shoulder-length hair and offer this executive in her 3-piece suit a ride on the back of his motorcycle into the sunset. Everybody thought she was crazy. They said she obviously was lonely and didn't have anybody in her life, so she was settling for this wild man. I was the only one saying that she wasn't crazy. Brenda needed this type of man in her life because she was a logical, goal-oriented, ambitious person who needed somebody to make her stop and smell the roses. He was teaching her how to live one day at a time and not take life so seriously. He was spontaneous, unconventional, romantic, and loved life. She, on the other hand, would provide him with the stability and structure he had been missing. Each came into each other's life to bring about a balance.
We've just completed the first half of Lesson 1 of Awaken Her Passion, and this is only the beginning. The version you watched here is slightly longer due to the addition of my introduction, conclusion, and intermission. Typically, each session lasts 60 to 90 minutes and is divided into 2 parts to enhance understanding and retention. Before we wrap up, I want to share a couple of quick announcements. First, please join us tomorrow at the same time for the second half of this lesson. Attending will ensure you gain the full benefits, including the assignment at the end to help you put into practice what you've learned. Additionally, we will be introducing some additional and exciting bonuses. As a token of appreciation for your commitment, we're offering you a free bonus valued at $95. Bi-weekly emails from Everlast Therapies featuring relationship improvement tips. These will arrive in your inbox every Wednesday and Sunday. To subscribe, simply click on any of the program links in the description box, and scroll down a bit. You'll find the subscription section there. Both Ernie and I understand that many people dislike signing up for things due to the influx of unwanted emails and marketing materials. Ernie shared his frustration about receiving 5 emails from a company just minutes after purchasing a program. Nothing is more annoying. That's why Everlast Therapies guarantees you'll only receive the emails you've signed up for, with perhaps the occasional major announcement. We genuinely respect your concerns and strive to keep your inbox clutter-free. In summary, we're just getting started. Make sure to join us for the second half of Lesson 1 tomorrow at the same time. And remember to subscribe to your free relationship tips valued at $95. If you have any questions or comments, please jot them down below and we'll address them as soon as possible. And know that after this event ends, it gets uploaded here. So if you need or want to, for whatever reason, you can easily revisit the video at your own leisure. Also, feel free to share this with anyone you know who may be facing challenges in their relationship. Your support could make a significant difference in helping them navigate their difficulties and strengthen their bond. Until tomorrow, take care and we'll see you here.